It is still a mystery to find the tomb of Alexander the Great, one of the most famous kings of the ancient world, and one of the most famous military leaders and conquerors throughout history, and the founder of the city of Alexandria, which was named after him, baffling archaeologists, which is the dream of archaeologists in Egypt, and what is the truth about Queen Cleopatra stealing the tomb? Did you know that Alexander the Great, he had more than one burial site? According to the Greco-Egyptian history, he was buried more than once in different countries and locations, even his coffin was changed more than once. And also the location of the tomb, and the tomb of Alexander the Great, and finding it, is one of the greatest mysteries over the years. Many archaeologists have spent their lives to find the tomb of Alexander the Great, the greatest warrior ever recorded in history, and in this video we will search for the tomb of Alexander the Great, what happened to it and why it is so important. And before we talk about the discovery of the tomb of Alexander the Great and where it is located and its location, we must know who is Alexander the Great. Beginnings of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was born in the Pella region of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedonia on June 20, 356 BC, to his parents, King Philip II of Macedonia and Queen Olympia, daughter of King Neoptolemus. The prince and his sister grew up in the royal court of Bella, and throughout his youth Alexander, with dark eyes and curly hair, did not see his father except a little, as his father was busy most of his time with military campaigns and sexual relations outside marriage, and although Olympia was providing a model for her son in strength, however, Alexander resented his father's absence and his extramarital relations. Alexander received his early education under the tutelage of his close relative Leonidas, ruler of Epirus. Leonidas, who was appointed by King Philip to teach his son mathematics, horsemanship, and archery, made great efforts to control his rebellious pupil. Alexander's next tutor was Lysimachus, who used role-playing to catch the fidgety boy's attention, and who particularly pleased Alexander by playing the warrior Achilles. In 343 BC, King Philip II appointed the philosopher Aristotle to teach Alexander at the temple of the nymphs in Mesa. Aristotle worked for 3 years teaching Alexander and some of his friends the sciences of philosophy, poetry, theater, science and politics. When Aristotle saw that Homer's Iliad inspired Alexander to dream of becoming a legendary warrior, he created an abridged version of the book for him to take with him on military campaigns. Personal life of Alexander the Great. He married the Persian princess Roxana and lived a turbulent life with her. Historians narrate about the multiple relationships of Alexander with women, and some say that he also had homosexual tendencies towards a friend of Hephaestion. It is likely by many researchers that the death of Hephaestion was the reason for the deterioration of Alexander the Great's health and his marital relationship. Roxana bore him a son 5 months after his death, and he bore the name Alexander IV. The death of Alexander the Great. Alexander died of malaria in Babylon, in present-day Iraq, in June 323 BC, while he was thinking of seizing Carthage and Rome, and he was still 32 years old, and Roxana bore him a son. A few months later, after Alexander's death, his empire collapsed, and the nations that formed it began to fight for power. Over time, the cultures of Greece and the East coalesced to flourish as relics of Alexander's empire, become part of the legacy, and spread the spirit of comprehensive Hellenism. The great archaeologist, Dr. Zahi Hawass, said that the tomb of Alexander the Great will be found one day under the old houses in the city of Alexandria, and all evidence confirms that Alexander was buried there, and not anywhere else, and it will be found during excavations, or through coincidence. He explained that Alexander the Great, when he was buried in Alexandria, was buried in the royal cemetery, known as Al-Soma al-Shama, in the royal neighborhood in the center of the old city, which was the neighborhood that was known as the Perkion, which was completely destroyed during the 3rd and 4th centuries AD as a result of the outbreak of revolutions, wars and strife, which by the people of Alexandria, against the Roman emperors, and after Christianity became the official religion in Egypt, many ancient pagan monuments were destroyed in the late 4th century AD, the most famous of which is the Temple of the Serbium, and this means that the tomb of Alexander the Great will not be discovered except by pure chance. As for the sites of Alexander's burial outside Egypt, they have no scientific basis, including Sidon, Lebanon, when Alexander's sarcophagus was discovered there in 1895 AD, and it is now preserved in the Istanbul Museum, Crete, or in northern Greece, or other opinions that are not based on any evidence. Scientific evidence. The Greek historian Cleosthenes mentions in the 5th century AD that the Shema or the Soma is located at the intersection of the two main streets of the ancient city of Alexandria, which are the long and Arab streets, and the map that he prepared for that is located in the area now known as the Street of the Prophet Daniel, and not at the Mosque of the Prophet Daniel, and accordingly, the tomb of Alexander is in this area, and since it was difficult to conduct excavations there due to its urban and demographic nature, the tomb of Alexander will not appear into existence except by pure chance. And Dr. Muhammad Hamza continued, perhaps this confirms that the famous Greco-Roman antiquities in Alexandria were not revealed except by chance, including the Roman amphitheater in Qam el-Dika, including the catacomb tombs in Qam el-Shokwafa, and the tomb of Mustafa Kemal in the eastern necropolis, including recently, the Alexandrian sarcophagus. And about the location of the tomb of Alexander the Great, Dr. Muhammad Hamza revealed that Alexander died in Babylon in the year 323 BC, and he was buried in a golden coffin and a specially made chariot until it was transported to Greece. When the coffin reached the Levant, Ptolemy, the founder of the Ptolemaic state in Egypt, hurried with his army to receive the coffin according to a prophecy confirming that the country that will keep Alexander's tomb will live in glory and happiness and will not die, and Ptolemy succeeded in bringing the coffin to Egypt and burying it in the Memphis cemetery Saqqara according to the Macedonian rituals. The coffin remained in Saqqara for a year, then it was transferred to Alexandria and buried in a cemetery, especially in the royal district. Dr. Muhammad Hamza described the tomb of Alexander the Great, saying, it included a staircase leading to a square courtyard and then a long corridor leading to the tomb under the surface of the earth, and a temple was built in it in which rituals were held for his soul, and near this cemetery the royal cemetery was established to bury the Ptolemaic family starting from Ptolemy II, who established the first tomb for his father, Ptolemy I, and his wife, and this royal cemetery was known as the Soma or the Shema. This tomb was visited by the Roman Caesars, and one of the important information about the sarcophagus of Alexander is that Ptolemy XI in the year 80 BC had replaced the golden sarcophagus of Alexander with a glass coffin. The book Alexandria, the Library and the Academy in the Ancient World by researcher Muhammad Abdul Munaimamr confirmed that the Ptolemaic historians in general confirmed categorically the existence of Alexander's tomb in Alexandria. Philadelphus mentioned that he had ordered the construction of a tomb for his parents, Ptolemy and Berenice, near the wall east of the tomb of Alexander the Great. From the foregoing, we find that all scientific opinions indicate that the presence of the tomb of Alexander the Great in the city of Alexandria, and it will be found one day, but by chance, as happened with the Greco-Roman antiquities that were discovered before Alexander the Great.